Today we're going to show you guys how to clean your Herrington Arms compensators. This specific compensator has 10,000 rounds of jacketed ammo, and then this one has about 20,000 rounds of really crappy reman ammunition. We're going to save this one for last and try to clean it. I'm not sure how well it's going to clean up. And then we're going to show you guys what happens when you don't clean your compensator. If you guys like this more technical information, definitely check out the Herrington Arms warehouse channel. That's where we do all the installs, uninstalls, and frequently asked questions about our products. If your compensator only has a couple thousand rounds of jacketed quality ammunition shot through it, you're really not going to have to do an extensive cleaning. With that, you can just strip the gun down to the slide and comp. You do not have to pull your compensator off. If you have a very dirty compensator where you've been shooting hand-loaded ammunition or non-jacketed ammo, you're going to have to pull the compensator off so that you can fully soak it. What tools you're going to need for cleaning your compensator is going to depend on how dirty the compensator is. Right off the bat, one of the things we like to use is a flathead screwdriver. This is going to allow you to pick off most of the carbon and lead buildup. We've also found that a pick works really good. If your barrel threads do not go all the way into the port or flush with the port of the compensator, what you'll have is some threads exposed. You can use a pick to dig into the thread and get out some of that carbon and lead buildup. Another thing that's great is wire brushes. Here we have a plastic wire brush that is great for set screws. You can use this to remove any buildup of Loctite if you're going to install a new set of set screws. You can also use these brushes for cleaning out the port of the compensator. And another thing we really like is a wire brush set. This is a 45 cal bore brush. You can use this to clean up the half 28 threads in your compensator. It's going to do great for getting out all that Loctite. You can also use it for your bore if you have some lead or carbon buildup around your bore. That is really important because if you have a lot of buildup around that bore, you can get a baffle strike really easily. If you have to, you can always go to the solution that's going to allow you to take it up a notch and try to clean out a really lead-baked compensator. First up, we'll go ahead and do the compensator that doesn't have as much carbon buildup or lead buildup. This compensator has about 10,000, 15,000 rounds on it. You guys don't have to wait until you have 5,000 or 10,000 rounds to the gun to clean this. We recommend honestly cleaning this every 1,000, 2,000 rounds. The cleaner you can keep this, the less pressure you're going to have build up in your port, and that pressure could potentially cause damages to the compensator. So first thing we're gonna do is try to scrape out the lead buildup or carbon buildup. This might be fruitless. It honestly depends on how hard this carbon is going to be. Lead is usually a little bit easier to get off than carbon. If you're having a hard time cleaning this with a screwdriver, what you can try doing is a Dremel. If you're gonna use a Dremel, I would definitely recommend wearing a face mask or a respirator. You do not wanna be breathing in that lead. So what we're doing is we're just scraping out this port with a flathead screwdriver. Really, I would not recommend doing this with a razor blade. I can see the temptation because it's sharp and it might help. It could be flimsy and cause it to break and damage either your barrel threads that could be protruding into the compensator or hurt you, and we definitely do not want that. So you can see here we got out some of this carbon buildup. I don't see a lot of lead buildup. Obviously, it's because we've been shooting quality ammunition. There really wasn't a whole lot in here from the beginning, so there wasn't a lot to scrape out. I've already got most of it out, and you can see I'm really not having to put a lot of elbow grease in here to scrape this. It's coming out rather easy. Again, this isn't lead, this is just a little bit of carbon buildup. This would be a lot easier if you had a headlamp or a really good light so you can see what you're doing. Again, I'm just scraping all 4 sides of this port to try to get all this carbon and lead buildup out. One thing of note when you're scraping this, you can damage your anodize or your Cerakote. So I would try to keep it inside the ports. If you go outside of the ports, you're gonna start marring up the compensator, and that might not be appealing to you. So try to stay inside the ports and just get the excess buildup. All right, I think I've scraped out everything that I can scrape out. All the big chunks are out of this. Obviously, you're not gonna get everything. You could pull this off and soak it in a lead remover. So with the cleaning of the rather clean compensator, again, it only had about 10, 15,000 rounds on it. I just used a flathead screwdriver. You could get much cleaner if you were to use a toothbrush or some wire brushes. You're gonna be able to get all the fine particles off that you couldn't get off with the flathead. It just depends on how clean you want to get it. Again, this is really important and it's something that often goes neglected. A lot of people will clean their gun just enough to keep it running and they don't even care about their compensator. If you don't clean your compensator, you're going to get lead buildup or carbon buildup, which will eventually lead to a baffle strike, which you can see in this PDP compensator. So when all the lead filled up the port in the compensator, the bullet comes out, it hits that lead and deflects, and it eventually deflects enough that it will actually strike the face of the compensator inside the port or the bore of the compensator and crack it, damage it, blow it apart. Obviously, this is not what you want. You don't want to damage your products. So this is why cleaning is so important. One thing to keep in mind with this, if you are running good jacketed ammo, this is going to take 30, 40, 50,000 rounds before you get a baffle strike. and it only takes a couple seconds to clean out your compensator, so we definitely recommend doing it. Even though it's a rather rare thing for a baffle strike to happen with a compensator, we still see it from time to time, and usually this happens when people run non-jacketed ammo or remanufactured ammo. Again, if you guys are running your own remanufactured ammo, definitely take more time to clean your compensator. This lead builds up very fast. This compensator only has about 12 to 15,000 rounds on it of remanufactured ammo, and it was very close to having a baffle strike. So you can see the difference between really crappy ammo versus really good ammo. They both have about the same amount of rounds, and this one was already really close to failure. This is very rare. Most people just run high quality ammo, but if you're gonna run the cheap stuff, you gotta clean your comp more often. So before we throw this in a lead remover, I'm gonna go ahead and try to see what I can get out with the pick and the screwdriver, and then we can switch to soaking it in the lead remover. So right off the bat, let's just hit the top port and see what I can get out. I don't know how hard this is. Again, you're gonna wanna be very careful and wear gloves when you do this. This stuff is not good for you and can definitely get in your bloodstream and hurt you pretty bad. We've actually had this compensator in the office for about 1.5 years. We're gonna try to get it as cleaned up as we possibly can. This lead buildup in here is very, very stiff and honestly a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Let's see if we can clean out some of this side port here. So it looks like Parker shot this compensator with some remanufactured ammo and some good ammo. So it has layers of lead and carbon, which is making it a lot harder to get out. The lead is rather soft, but the carbon is very hard. So it looks like it's been cemented layer after layer, which is making it a lot harder to get this out. So I was able to get some of this out, and it looks like it was about the same as the last compensator. Just some of the easy, light, flaky stuff. But this still has a lot of carbon and lead buildup in it. So we're gonna go ahead and try to soak this in some lead remover and see what we can do. So we're using Shooter's Choice lead remover and just a bottle that was cut in half. You're gonna wanna be very careful with this because it is a chemical and you probably don't want it touching your skin. So we're gonna add some of this to the bottom of this jar and stick the comp into it. I'd like to get it to fill all the ports. I don't need it to go all the way up the compensator, but at least halfway. Okay, so if I tilt this up, I can get it to cover all of the ports. We're gonna let this sit for 15-20 minutes, come back and see if we can get some of this lead off. All right, it's been about 10 minutes. We're gonna try to scrape off some of this lead buildup. You're gonna want to be very careful with this chemical. Definitely wear gloves. It's very sticky. So it is making a difference. It does feel like it is softening. But honestly, guys, I think this might be too far gone. We might not be able to get this entirely clean. You're definitely gonna get a lot of it out, but it's still gonna have some buildup, which is gonna get you just one step closer to having that baffle strike. So we definitely got some off. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this back in here. So this has been sitting now for about 30 minutes, and we're going to try and scrape off any more of this lead buildup. I'm not super hopeful. This was really bad. I haven't seen a compensator this gummed up in a while. Usually they don't get this bad, but he ran a lot of reman ammo through this compensator, so it is very piled up in here. So I'm having a hard time getting any more out of the top port. I'll go ahead and scrape off some of these side ports, see if I can get anything out of it. This is actually gumming up and getting really thick, so we're gonna wanna clean this compensator afterwards with some sort of Dawn dish soap or cleaning solvent. Be very careful what you mix with chemicals here. You don't want to use anything really aggressive when trying to clean this off to reinstall the compensator. And honestly, guys, this looks like it's so bad that we're just not going to be able to get it fully clean. This is why periodically cleaning these compensators is going to be very important for the longevity of your product. We're going to go ahead and clean this up with some water and show you guys how bad it really is. So after some further cleaning, I was able to get a little bit more lead and carbon out of this. I would still shoot this until it fails. You could probably get 20 or 30 more thousand rounds out of this with plated ammo before you have any issues. Again, if you keep up with maintenance every 1,000 rounds, keep scraping the lead and carbon out of here, you'll be good to go. If you go back to non-plated ammo, you're just gonna fill up with lead, and eventually you will have a catastrophic failure. It looks like this compensator was a little bit too far gone. Switching between the different kinds of ammo, it caused it to kind of cement into this thick lead carbon layer system that was just really hard to get through. Typically, if you stick with one kind of ammo, it might be a little bit easier, but unfortunately, this stuff is just really tough, and I was not able to fully save this compensator. So for a little bonus cleaning tip, I'm gonna show you guys how to clean Loctite out of compensators. There's really two methods of this. And it's really important because if you don't get this old Loctite out, the new Loctite won't cure and you'll have issues with it seating properly while you're shooting. So you don't want this compensator coming loose. You want to get all this old Loctite out of the compensator, and this is going to be the easiest way to do it. So obviously on barrel threads, it's rather easy, right? You can take really any brush and clean this off. If you have a thread file, this would go a lot easier. Most people don't have thread files. Any brass cleaning brush will do this. It's definitely going to take some time. But you can go ahead and clean this with a brush. You can put some cleaner on there. This is hops, it works really great. It's gonna help clean this off. You can also get this hot. If you take a lighter to it, it will liquefy the Loctite and then you can simply wipe it off. So it's incredibly easy to get it off with that. Where it gets more difficult is actually in these barrel threads because you can't get a brush in there very easily. So this is gonna be a lot more difficult actually in the bore of the compensator with these threads. Same kind of theory though. You can take this wire brush and clean the internal threads here. It's gonna take a little bit longer because you can't really get any leverage. You're stuck just trying to use a wire brush like this to get it out. But it does a pretty good job. And most of the time, the Loctite stays on the barrel threads and not necessarily in the compensator. So this will do a pretty good job of getting that Loctite out. You can see I already got most of it out in those threads. And then you can do the same thing. You could take a smaller brush and do the set screw threads as well. This goes all the way through, so you can just go back and forth with this. So you can just clean out these set screw holes pretty easy. Same method. It's gonna be a little bit trickier because it's such a small space, but you can get this clean with a little brush. Again, most of these Loctite will actually stay on the set screws. And actually both of these threads are clean. And now what I would recommend doing is cleaning this with a degreaser, getting all the oils off these threads before you put new Loctite and reinstall the compensator. If you guys like this kind of content, go check out the Herrington Arms warehouse page. We're gonna be doing a lot of this on that page, so definitely subscribe. If you guys like this video, we'd appreciate a like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.